Judge has ordered Fort Worth Mayor Matty Parker there on the right and City Councilman Chris Nettles on the left. He ordered them both to appear before him in court. The judge said he thinks that Mayor Parker and Councilman Nettles might have violated the judge's gag order in this case when both of those city officials released statements yesterday after the conviction. Mayor Parker and Councilman Nettles must appear in court and answer to the judge January 4th at noon.
Mr. Brissett.
Traditionally, under Rogers versus State, the defense would put stuff on outside the presence of the jury and the state for trial strategy purposes, but given the events that have transpired over the last 2 days we've been in court, I think it's appropriate to make sure the record's very clear as to what was going on Thursday evening outside the Kim Curry Criminal Justice Center, if I may.
Yes.
So, without revealing sources and methods, when the Dean family was removed or escorted from the building, there were individuals not part of the Carr family at all. They've been most gracious to us and to the Dean family throughout this whole trial. There are hangers-on, though, that have taken it upon themselves to interject themselves in this case. And one of those is Mr. Mata. Mr. Mata and several other individuals, some dressed in full military fatigues, some dressed in full face coverings or balaclavas to hide their identity, decided to speak in words that probably shouldn't be spoken in open court and caused the Dean family to be in fear to the level I say rises to Texas Penal Code 2207 of terroristic threat. Without revealing which law enforcement agencies were in plain clothes, law enforcement officials that are Texas peace officers were in close contact with the family and observed the 2207 violations. And at the time, they did not know who Mr. Mata was. As we came into Thursday evening, at the same time that's going on, simultaneously a series of death threats were being issued to the defense team as a whole via communication systems, which isn't the first time we've received death threats, but these were more specific and carried the same tone and nature that was going on the streets outside the Justice Center at the time. As we went on to the next day, Friday, when we were here last in court, initially the state was gracious enough to provide us an image of Mr. Mata from the Tarrant County Sheriff's Department system. Mr. Mata has a series of pending cases. He's also a convicted felon. He has assaulted cases in his past, and the undercover plainclothes officers were not able to do a positive identification based on the last mugshot that we had in the system. It wasn't until Mr. Mata made his appearance here in your actual courtroom that the plainclothes officers were able to positively identify Mr. Mata as being one of the same that did a bull rush toward one of their vehicles and was creating the overtones of the terroristic threat. This court is well aware during the history of this building, though we have metal detectors, other objects that can cause people serious bodily injury have been brought into this building surreptitiously. My law partner, Bob Gill, when he was a prosecutor, was attacked with a knife made out of a glass shank during Capitol Board Hour at one point. Metal detectors only do certain things. Mr. Mata sat within the 21-foot rule of the Dean family in the courtroom. As the state's expert, Mr. Priest, talked about 21 feet, probably should be 35 at this point. He had on multiple layers of clothing. We could not identify if he had anything on him. The same people he was threatening to cause harm to the day before, he's now within arm's reach of in the courtroom. The defense's contention all along is this case should have been moved out of town for publicity and the security risks that were going to go on. The defense asked to have Mr. Mata sworn in and others sworn in at the time last week to make a bill of exception to our continued issue of the change of venue. We were going to do that with Mr. Mata at a break. That's why we asked to have him sworn in. Mr. Mata refused to take the oath, and everybody else got to see what happens when you choose not to take the oath at that point, and they're disrespectful to a court that's in session. So, for those reasons, that's why we asked to have Mr. Mata sworn in without revealing all the sources and methods and the undercover peace officers that are assisting in this case. We felt that the terroristic threat event that took place on Thursday warranted him being sworn in to be put as part of a proffer for our bill of exception as to why the change of venue had not been granted.
the court had received information from security as to their concerns as to Mr. Mata. And additionally, the state had furnished to the court a list of his convictions, his pending cases. There are multiple convictions for assault. There are 4 pending cases for interference with public duties. And when I saw him come into the courtroom and sit within the immediate reach of the Dean family, it caused me some concern. But that is over. My goal is to do a fair trial and to make everybody feel safe in this courtroom. And
if I could add, Judge, without revealing our sources and methods, Mr. Mata is quoted in the hallway, "I shouldn't be here today. I know I'm going to be arrested." And that was on Friday, indicating, I guess, events previous, which I can only think would be the terroristic threat crime that he committed, not only in the presence of those plainclothes, uniformed sheriff's department, and Tarrant County Criminal District attorney employees that can witness and know what a violation of law is when they see it.
well, as I said previously, my goal is to protect everyone. In fact, when all this was happening, I looked up and the state was over in the well of the jury box, away from their tables, and I felt what I needed to do at the time to protect everyone for courtroom security. Mr. Mata's bonds will be reinstated today, and so we can move on. Mr. Smith, does the state have anything you need to place in the record?
Nothing from the state, Your Honor.
All right. Are both sides ready for the jury?